The new U.S. Attorney General appointee, Merrick Garland, formerly a Supreme Court Justice nominee, has indicated, even while scandals involving decisions by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo continue to make headlines in COVID-19 responses, has decided to make investigation of the tragic events at the Capitol on January 6th. During the Million MAGA March, his priority, the event that has been connected with the deaths of at least 5 persons, as well as 1 member of the Capitol Hill Police Department, and resulted at first in a total of 68 arrests, which had climbed by the time of the impeachment trials to over 260. The Stop the Steal demonstration a month before had resulted in a total of 33 arrests, as well as a total of 9 persons requiring medical emergency services, including 4 stabbings, as well as 2 civilians and 2 law enforcement officers who suffered what was described as minor injuries by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and 1 assault victim in the vicinity of 11th Street and F Street Northwest. Viewed within the larger context of civil unrest, which since the year 2000 has steadily risen in nationwide demonstrations, exceeding even the civil unrest experienced in frequency than the events connected to the turbulent 1960s. The Stop the Steal rally and the Million MAGA March are not total aberrations from a pattern of this type of grassroots activism, especially after a summer of protests, riots, and even arson during what has been described by Pew Research Center as a time of increased social tension, dating back even to the Obama administration, where racial tension had reached a peak all-time high, and which has become increasingly less ideological and more personal, even in political discourse, intriguingly mostly amongst those associated with progressive causes, who are at least viewing themselves as the more educated and enlightened. But Attorney General nominee Garland has issued a warning that there is a new sheriff in town and that he intends to make domestic terrorists one of his chief priorities. Capitalizing upon his prior experiences, not just as a jurist, but also as a lead investigator for the Oklahoma City bombing with the Justice Department, and events connected to what has been described as right-wing domestic terrorists, which have also been associated with leaders of the pro-life cause and attributed to some arrests, even in Oklahoma City, for activism under felony charges brought under the FACE Act, which was enacted by President Clinton in 1994, making it a felony to block the entrance of any facility providing what has been described as reproductive services. So for the next few moments, let's take some time to review the facts from the tragic events that occurred at the Capitol on January 6th, or the Insurrection, as provocatively described in the press, and which were the primary focus of the second impeachment of the former president, charges for which he was eventually acquitted by the Senate in a vote divided upon partisan lines. Law enforcement officials are well aware that mass demonstrations can present unique challenges for police, public safety, and security. And multiple case studies from past events provide a vast resource for planning, coordinating, and controlling these demonstrations to maintain order. Like many demonstration organizers who prepare for contingencies by designating first aid stations, water points, and other services for participants, common even at large road races. Law enforcement and security personnel have the ability to anticipate potential risks and deploy trained personnel, assets, and capabilities to anticipate and prepare for early intervention. And failure to do so is tantamount to gross negligence by those personnel and leaders in a court of law. Even the Magic Kingdom and Walt Disney World, the most visited location in the world with almost 60 million annual visitors behind a tranquil veneer, has a trained staff and forward-deployed assets to react immediately in the event of the unexpected by a casual visitor, enjoying the 10 million hamburgers, 9 million pounds of french fries, 300,000 pounds of popcorn, and 1.6 million turkey drumsticks per year in that theme park, with themed hats adorned with ears atop or not. And the theme park receives over 100 lawsuits per year alleging negligence on their behalf. The Women's March, the largest single-day protest in history, held on January 21st, 2017, the day after the inauguration of former President Donald J. Trump, had as many as 500,000 participants, part of a global effort, pandemic in proportion, that spawned over 670 outbreak events on 7 continents, approaching 5 million participants worldwide, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica. Yet, while there was no record of arrest on that day in Washington, demonstrations at the inauguration ceremony the day before had resulted in over 200 arrests, thousands of dollars in property damage, some arson, injuries of 6 law enforcement officers, and as many as 15 unexploded improvised explosive devices recovered on the Capitol Hill grounds. Yet, according to the website for the architect of the Capitol, the history of the United States Capitol building begins in 1793, when President George Washington, the military veteran and former surveyor, who had selected the site for the nation's capital city in 1791, under the authority vested in him by the Residence Act of 1790, laid the cornerstone on September 18, 1793. And Pierre Charles L'Enfant was the French military engineer originally chosen to plan the new city. L'Enfant was recruited at the age of 23 by Pierre-Augustin Caron de Beaumarchais to serve in the American Revolutionary War in the United States, and served as a military engineer in the Continental Army with Major General Lafayette. He was commissioned as a captain in the Corps of Engineers on April 3rd, 1779. Yet despite his military training, L'Enfant had been terminated from the project for apparently artistic differences, having refused to present any graphic illustrations, claiming that the entire plan was in his artistic head. But he had personally chosen the location for the Capitol building at the elevated east end of the mall, on the brow of what was then called Jenkins Hill. The site was, in L'Enfant's artistic words, a pedestal waiting for a monument. But any military veteran is well acquainted with the advantages afforded by high ground. And although granting the appearance of a grand park, even the designs of the city streets and circles betray a subtle military purpose. Just like some seemingly innocuous objects you might find in a theme park actually have a security purpose. Since its erection, the U.S. Capitol has been built, burnt, rebuilt, extended, and restored, each time fortifying what is essentially a fortress as the centerpiece of the city that had been planned for the nation's capital. My name is Major Mike Webb, and by God, I am running for governor of Virginia. I ask that every Virginian and American true, like the motto of the infantry, follow me, and we shall overcome. Honest. And y'all come back now. Yeah. This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.
And y'all go back now. Him,